here. And we'll start here. So as Linda Marie said, I work for Bookmarks. Bookmarks is a little different because we are a nonprofit, but we opened our independent bookstore in July. So we're still fairly new to the retail day-to-day side of sales, though we've been doing book sales for years at various things. We also host a festival in September. So just a little bit of history about our Authors in Schools program. It started with our book festival, and we've been doing school visits since basically the beginning of our festival history in 2004. Basically just the day before we hosted the festival, we would send authors into schools. Seemed like a good idea since they were already in town. So that has grown throughout the years as we've become a little bit more comfortable with it. We now this past year, we reached about 9,500 students in our area. So these are just a few pictures of the different types of school visits we do. Some schools are interested in big visits, some in small. We have repeat visits all the time with certain schools and with certain authors. So I'm going to take you to our website and show you this. So this is our website. We use ABA's Indie Commerce model. This is our main Authors in Schools page off of that Kids in Schools tab up at the top. So this is different ways for people to find out information about getting involved, whether they are an author or a school that wants to be involved. So the first section here you'll see is just our basic Authors in Schools page that hasn't been updated right here to reflect last year's numbers, but you can see that was our 2016 numbers. So it really grew a lot this past year, just having the bookstore open. So this is kind of when you click on that Bookmarks in Schools tab, this tells you a little bit more about the program. We have a place for schools who want to request an author visit where they can do that. We have a part-time employee that we hired fall of 2016. Before then, I was handling this completely, and it got a little too overwhelming. So we've been able to hire a part-time person to handle all of our school programming, which is very helpful. But we just have a plain form that I'll show you in a minute for schools to fill out. We like to get as much information as possible from schools so we know what to tell the author to expect and what we're asking from them right at the beginning. And then they can email us a completed form. We do try to visit all the schools in our area that request an author visit and be very fair about how we do that. So the bigger authors that visit, maybe for our festival or for bigger events on book tour or something like that, we do try not to just send them all to a few schools, but really kind of divide the demand for the visits out. So in a little bit, I'll get to how we keep track of all of that. I think that's important, as organized as you can be to keep up with it, especially as the word gets out that you're developing this program for schools. You probably will get a lot of response from it. So we have a form for that for schools. We have one for authors. When we first started our Authors in Schools program and developed it to a year-round program, we had a lot of local authors who were interested in doing school visits. I think you have to be very careful about that. One way that we've used kind of as a testing ground, I guess, for authors before we send them into schools is we might invite them in to do a story time. We have story times in our store on Wednesday and Saturday mornings. We actually just had a local author come in and do one this morning. And then that way you get to hear their presentation, get to know them a little bit better. Sometimes over email it's a little difficult. That has worked really well. We've gotten to a point where we don't really use self-published authors in school visits. I don't know that we ever really did that much. We're very lucky in North Carolina to have a lot of really great children's authors that are traditionally published. So we haven't really had to go that route a whole lot. So for the authors, we just ask that they, and I'll show you that form as well in a second, we just ask that they send us a non-returnable copy of their book along with the filled out application so we can see where they might fit best. And we have had a lot of people submit their books that they say are appropriate for maybe a high school level, but we just don't think they're quite appropriate, and we'll just let them know that. And we have other options for local authors through store programming, which is helpful too. Because we're a nonprofit, everything we do ties back into how people can give us money to help support our programming. So as you can imagine, the school programming is a huge way to get funding, and I really think that this is something that can translate to retail stores, other stores that are not nonprofits. The same way, we work with lots of different groups who might already sponsor a school, and they might be interested in donating books for an author visit or something like that. So we have some stats and things here. We have a list of all the schools in the area we've visited. It goes on, and that's kind of that whole page. Back to this section, we also offer a summer reading program that I believe we just had our 3rd year. Yeah, this will be our 4th year doing that program. Everybody has different summer reading programs. Ours is a little bit different because we include a lot of our authors who will be coming to the festival in September. So kids will be able to read their books through the summer. They have a way to respond directly to the author through a letter that we can give to the author. They have the opportunity to meet the author, get their books signed at the festival. So that adds a little bit more of a, has a little bit bigger of an impact to the kids when they read the books. But a summer reading program doesn't have to be difficult, and that could be its whole other section. But it's yet another way for us to basically take program we're already doing and reach out to the schools with it, and let them know that this is a program they can be involved in through the summer to keep up with their reading and that sort of thing. So book fairs, I think we're actually going to take this tab off of the website. We began book fairs in 2016. Again, this could be its whole extra session. I went to a session at Winter Institute several years ago, I think with Anderson's bookstore outside Chicago, if you're familiar. They have a whole separate book fair business. They have vans and a warehouse and all this stuff. We're not quite that large. Up until January last year, we were only a 2-person operation. So we're quite small compared to that. But we have done some test book fairs in 2016. We now do 3 a semester, and that's about our limit of what we can handle. That's profitable still for us, and profitable for the schools, and an alternative to the main Scholastic offering, which is what a lot of people use here, that some of our librarians have complained is a white girl book fair. So we try to offer some diverse titles there, maybe things that aren't on everybody's radar. But that's yet another way to do that. You don't have to do full-scale book fairs too. Something we're just beginning this year is to help local schools update their media collection. A lot of the libraries here, especially at Title I schools, are really struggling with a lot of 1950s and 1960s science books, especially in history. So trying to up their collection age, make it more current. So we've created packages from $500 to $5,000 on ways to do bulk sales when they have grant funding or Title I money to spend. national grants, that kind of thing, or just want to do a fundraiser for updating their collection. So it's really been a good thing. A lot of schools are really interested in it. So that's something to consider too. And that kind of leads into this book ordering, which I think is that goes hand in hand with sending authors into the schools. A lot of our schools don't allow us to be on site to sell the books for an author visit. So we do a take-home sales sheet that we prepare ahead of time with the author's books listed on that. That goes home with the kids. Usually it's up to the schools to send them out, and then they collect them, bring them back to us, and then we just bring the books with the author on the school visit day. So that has expanded to year-round school ordering, which I think is very helpful, and another way to easily increase your sales and help the schools out as well. We offer a discount, and that works really well for them. Through our website, we're able to do wish lists for people, so that's been an easy sell for schools if they want to create wish lists, and then when they have a book fair, even if the book fair isn't through us, they can send that wish list out to parents, grandparents who might not live locally but want to support the kids' school. It's easy to manage. They create the wish list themselves, and then we just host it on our website. Bulk ordering, some ideas that we've done and have worked out is to contact the librarians at the beginning of the school year, maybe at the middle of the school year, and then at the end of the school year, especially Title I schools or schools that receive funding specifically for their book purchasing. I always like to get in touch with the schools. At this point, we have really good relationships with most of the media coordinators, but I like to contact the curriculum coordinators. They might be called something different at your schools. Just somebody higher in the administration, to let them know that we do this, remind them that we do this, that we would like to put in a bid or a quote, give them a quote for their year-end or beginning of the year purchases, all their classroom sets, things like that. That has really been a positive way to get some of the schools involved a little bit more. And if they're ordering books, which they are every year, they should be ordering from their independent bookstore. We do give them a discount, like I said. We don't make a ton of money on it, but it's just a reminder that we're here and that we're local, and their money is staying in our community, which is the important thing. So if you keep stats, like I mentioned, if you stay organized with all of your details, this has been really powerful. For me to talk to the different schools and say, we've been able to save schools this year $10,000 on their purchases by giving them a discount, but we still make money as well. So it's a win-win. Okay, so let me show you this. So this is our author information sheet that I mentioned earlier. It's just a very simple form. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, I don't think. This has worked really well for us. So for authors to talk to us about, we like to remind them that we're located in Winston-Salem. So if you're a local person, we do visits in the Piedmont Triad. If you live locally within that, we're not necessarily going to pay for hotel stays all the time for authors. We do like to offer honorariums to authors, but it doesn't always work out that we can pay for multiple hotel stays for authors. So we like to remind them that we are in the Piedmont Triad. We do get requests for authors to join the program who might be out of state, and that doesn't really make sense. This is one of our local authors, Charlie Levitt, who's published with Viking. He is a former board president of ours. We're very lucky to have him here in the community. But this is a way to get your local authors involved. We offer, yeah.
I'm sure, I don't think we're seeing that form, the author form.
Yeah, we're not seeing any of that.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. Thank you for letting me know. Let me come here. Let's see. I guess the share went away.
You want to make sure you share your whole desktop as opposed to just one window.
Okay, let me go back if I can. Okay, let's see. There we go. Maybe. Can you see that?
Still seeing the same form. Oh, there we are.
Is this okay? So can you see this author form?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. So this is the author form I was talking about. Pretty standard. Okay. This is Charlie Levitt's website that I was mentioning. He just puts a link there that people can get signed copies from us, which we do get orders pretty regularly from, especially when he has a new book. But when he does speaking engagements at libraries or book clubs, that kind of thing, we always send books with him to sell. And so we do that with several authors. He does some high school visits for us, but we do have a lot of children's authors who do the same thing. To be our preferred vendor for their school sales is really big. So this is another one that we do with Stacy McNulty, who's a local children's book author. She's got books with Penguin and Running Press, I think, and some others. But this is a sample kind of sales sheet that we would create and send to the school. We offer a pickup price that's at a little bit more of a discount than a ship price. Our standard for book sales to schools is 20%. I know a lot of stores do more, and a lot of stores do less than that. So it's whatever works best for your school, for your store. But so a lot of schools that Stacy visits are a little bit outside of our area. So either she might take the books with her that are ordered, or we might ship them. And so it's been really great to have authors do that, and for us to be their preferred vendor. For schools, the request form is very similar to the author form. Again, it's very simple, but I do like to ask for as much information as they can give us, and a lot of times this is followed up with another email just clarifying some of the information, especially if somebody puts in list the types of presentations or what time, date you want, and they just say any. It's not as helpful as somebody being really specific. You can't really contact an author and say, anytime you want to visit the school, it's great. So that's really helpful. We just keep these as they come in chronological order, so that we try to be as fair as possible in fulfilling the school requests in the order that they come in. Now, if we visit, a certain school and send them an author, and then they immediately request another one, we'll probably put that on hold until we, get back around to them. At this point, we've reached every school in Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. So we do go back to several of them on a regular basis, not to say we don't, but those typically we have specific grants for, so we'll visit them 5 or 6 times in a school year. One way that we try to increase awareness that we offer this program to schools is we like to set up meetings with the PTAs, or really I think is more helpful to go to the teacher monthly staff meetings. Of course, not every month, but if you can get on their calendars for one a year for maybe 6 or 8 key schools in your area, that's just so huge. And even for 10 minutes, just handing out some information about what you do, just remind them that any books that they need for their classrooms, for their library, for their book clubs, whatever, you can provide to them. I think that's very helpful. I would say also not just presenting them the angle of keeping it local and saving them money, I think is key. Also saving them time. A lot of librarians, at least in our district, are very strapped for resources. A lot of them don't have assistants, and a lot of them are part-time now, splitting their time between several schools. So being able to offer them, hey, I can do a quote for that, and that saves them time from trying all different sources to get the lowest quote. Let's see. So we have found that it's not good enough to just contact one person at a school and be on their radar. Sometimes librarians, like I said, are a little too busy, especially at the Title I schools. Most of the administration is very busy, so we've been trying to increase our engagement with the individual teachers. So we think that's important as they kind of become our cheerleaders in the community. They can present our programming as extra credit to their students, or our summer reading program. We've started some kids book clubs, that kind of thing. So we're now trying to figure out how to create more long-lasting relationships with the teachers and at the schools. So a couple of things we do. We do an ALA award preview, an order session with the librarians in the district. And so after the ALA awards are announced, we do an evening where, we just do a little bit of snacks, nothing big, and have them in and talk to them very briefly about all the award winners. And we have an order sheet that they can take and give us right back and go ahead and order the books. We do kind of a package deal for all of the award winners. And that's been really helpful. They like that. And at least in our area, the media coordinators have monthly meetings anyway. So if we could build that into their monthly meeting, they've really appreciated that. And we've done really well with sales. We do some special events specifically for teachers. We're doing more this year. So we have an upcoming middle grade book club event where we're presenting the North Carolina Battle of the Books author Joyce Meyer Hostetter. She's the author of Blue. And so we're having, after Joyce's presentation, we're having a private dinner. It's just pizza, but a private dinner with the teachers and Joyce after that event. And we've just taken RSVPs, first come, first serve, and we've already hit our max, which is great. Teachers are really excited to have that opportunity. We do a lot of giveaways for teachers. We'll let them go through galleys or have some of our damaged books. We kind of just send out an email, first come, first serve. Same thing with free and discounted tickets to our ticketed events. We have sometimes offer as an option. People can buy a ticket for themselves and then also donate a ticket to a local educator. And people have been really good about that and seem to respond really well, at least just like seeing that on there. A lot of people buy tickets and donate them to teachers, or will not be able to not be able to come to an event, say, hey, can you donate this to a teacher? And then a lot of times when we have a sponsor for an event, we can build into that event, especially if it's somebody that's kid friendly, build a certain number of tickets in for educators, which is great. We do some discounted special tickets for teachers. We had Kate Camillo 2 years ago for our festival, and she did a breakfast, and we did a discounted ticket for teachers to come. That was a little bit less than the normal ticket price. This is just an example of one of our sheets that we use to keep track of requests as they come in. This is Rachel's sheet that she's used. We do, are we donating books? Are we giving them an honorarium? You can see some are higher just because of what exactly they offer for their presentation, how many kids are coming, so we can keep track of that, and so on. So those are not festival visits, but just other other visits, and I think it's just really helpful. The more info you can track, I think the better. I'm kind of a stat crazy person. So, but I find it's really helpful, especially when you're talking to the schools or talking to maybe a local business and you suggest that they get involved with the school this way, you can present them with stats and they really like that. But it also helps you evaluate what visits are successful and which ones aren't and why. Maybe some schools can't pre-order a ton of books, and you can see how to space those visits out a little bit more. I just think it's helpful to be as organized as you can be. So some of our other ideas to increase sales to schools, we did a senior class gift last year at a private school, but I think you can talk to other groups for this too. I think there's a lot of community groups that give senior gifts, maybe through their churches or Rotary or whatever. But we did 150 book sales for their senior class. We saved them $600, but we made a profit of $840. So I think it's helpful to see that you still do make a profit, even though you can tell them, hey, I'm going to save you $600. We have some lifelong learning classes through Wake Forest University that are adult continuing education for adults, and we've worked with them on 2 semesters of their additional books that they read for the classes. So that's something that's kind of outside of traditional schools but still ties into education, that you might consider if you have something similar in your community. And you can see, again, it's not a ton of profit, maybe not as much as you would make if you sold them at retail price, but you're getting those people to know about what you're doing, which I think is critical. And then other local groups, like I mentioned, who support schools, we do a lot of sales to a local church who has sponsored a Title I elementary school. That's the one there, that's 480 books. We do a Christmas book to every kid at that school, and then we do 1 or 2 books over spring break, which is just fabulous for those kids who really don't have books at home. So that's really important. We've done some Rotary gifts the same way, that want to sponsor a local school, and they want to do maybe 10 to 12 books for a school. But there are other businesses in the community that are corporate sponsors of schools. That's a good way to reach out and say, hey, there's an author visit to the school that we're providing to the school for free. Can you sponsor 30, 40 copies of the book for the kids? And, at this discount. And it seems to go very well for us. I think that would translate very well for other stores as well. So let's see. I think you can check with PTAs, probably is the easiest way if you don't have a list somewhere on your school district about that. So some schools have grants, as I mentioned, to bring in authors or to buy books. We have, through our school system, they have been doing a Reading Railroad national grant with 6 elementary schools, Title I schools. And they have brought in some authors that we could have gotten them possibly for free, and then they've instead spent $20,000 on the authors, but then haven't bought books for the kids. And that's something that we're really working on, trying to work directly with the school district to let them know before they book these authors. Perhaps we can help them do that at a lesser speaker fee to the authors, and then maybe spend that money on book sales, which, as we know, is helpful not just to the kids, but to the author and the publisher as well. So that's one thing that we've been trying to increase awareness on as well. So I am going to just stop sharing my screen, and I don't want to go over my time. So what questions would you have?
I have a question, Jamie.
Sure.
This is Jill Hendricks from Fiction Addiction. I'm wondering how soon after the ALA winners are announced that you hold your event, and if you have trouble getting the books in time for it.
We did this year. Yeah, that is a difficult thing. We usually schedule it about 3 to 4 weeks later. So they get all the information, of course, just as everybody else does. And it's been challenging sometimes to get some of the books from the smaller publishers in time, but we just do a sales sheet and they don't seem to mind if we only have one copy for them to look at. That's fine. That seems to be the key. And then, because they really just want to flip through it and see, and then we just do deliveries to the schools later. I don't know that I mentioned deliveries specifically, but the offering of deliveries to local schools when they place orders seems to be a big seller as well, since a lot of the places they order from ship at no additional charge. We have a lot of volunteers, and I think you could probably find some volunteers too who would be willing to do that if you don't want to, waste staff power on it.
I had a question about the offer sales sheets.
Mm-hmm.
What time do you have them? When do the teachers have to turn it back in? Because we're kind of lucky; we can usually do it in a week. But
Yeah.
some folks are so lucky.
For our local authors that we do a lot of school visits for, we keep kind of a healthy inventory of their books anyway. So that's one way to kind of not have to worry about getting books in very quickly, but we do like to have a couple months notice that at least that the author is going to that school. It usually ends up being about a month, and then we give them a very short turnaround to get the book orders back to us. I like to have 3 to 4 weeks of notice, especially, if we're shipping. If they're going to pick them up, it's not as big of a deal, especially if it's somebody that we work with regularly. We've had a couple of instances where a school got an author themselves through some grant money or whatever, and the author's books are by a very small press that took us a little longer to get in. So, that's why I like to tell people 3 to 4 weeks.
I have a question.
Sure.
We don't do any work with schools at this point, so this is all very interesting because we'd like to start. But question about, can't school libraries directly order from publishers? Why wouldn't they get a better deal than what we could possibly give them, or no?
Most of, Wanda, Deanna.
It's been a long time, but I was a school librarian before I came into the job I have now. And I did that for 12 years. And basically, when I was doing it, and a lot has changed, understand that we basically ordered from 2 companies, Follett and Baker and Taylor. Mm-hmm. And that was because the books came shelf-ready. They had the pocket in the back, everything you needed. Now that it's all computerized, you don't need the pocket and all that now. But there's still, I don't know if libraries use the ISBN to ship books in and out that made the same little QR code y'all use to sell the books. I don't know. But I know for years that basically that what we call wholesalers, they call jobbers. And the 2 jobbers we used, Baker and Taylor and Follett. Now, I think Follett has now purchased Baker and Taylor, correct? That's who bought Baker and Taylor? Mm-hmm. So they're all one company, and that's basically who services libraries.
Okay.
In my day, very few libraries had accounts direct with publishers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, the ones that we mainly work with that we will give a competing quote to are people who use Follett and Baker and Taylor. And there's a couple of other places that I've found that they use, like some wholesaler websites that schools use, and we certainly can't beat those prices and don't try to. But I'll take a quote that I get from their Baker and Taylor order. They've already done the list, and just look and see, and just tell them I can't beat this price, but I can beat this price. And sometimes it's there have been very few cases where we haven't been able, our standard 20% discount, there have been few cases where that hasn't been better than what they're getting from Baker and Taylor or
So
Fell.
their discounts are obviously different from our discounts. Okay.
Obviously. Yeah, I don't know what exactly it is, but they do come pre-processed, like Wanda said, and I don't know what that means exactly.
Well, again, when I was buying books, again, many years ago, there was no discount. We paid retail
Oh, wow.
to Baker and Taylor and Follett.
Okay.
wow.
Books.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it depends on timing, like how much time a librarian has to process the books versus getting the extra money and getting more books. So,
But with these days, it's so you could go online and we know where they can get their books from and get big discounts. So,
Right.
Yeah, it's so I guess it is different from 12 years ago. So
yeah.
Twenty
I mean,
years ago.
we don't offer them to, I mean, we offer them to all schools. Not every school takes advantage of it, of course. So we work with, maybe 10 schools on regular big orders that they place, and they like the idea that they're supporting our organization, and that they're getting the books locally sourced. So, that's just something you have to reiterate and keep pounding to them. And also just letting them know that we have all these other local offerings for them as well. I think it's they appreciate that.
yeah, cool. Thanks.
So I have a question kind of for everybody that's on the webinar, but specifically also for you, Jamie. Because you have these relationships with these schools, SEBA did this program and then we kind of stopped doing it. Now we have a publisher who's talking to us about wanting to do it again. I'm not discouraging them or encouraging them. It's called One Book, One South. And then we do it with a kid's book. It's called One Book, One South Junior. And the goal of it was to try to get schools to, my goal was to get stores to use this as a way to connect with their schools, and that we would be able to provide support materials and all of that. But it didn't work out that way at all. So I'm just kind of trying to get an idea. The book they're pitching is called Ghost Boys. It's for 4th through 7th grade.
It's beautiful.
A really powerful book. I think it would lend itself to a lot of conversation. I think the author would make herself available to do Zoom events with classes and maybe even visit. I mean, she will be doing a tour. Is that a good idea? And if it is, what's the best way for me to connect, like with you, with stores that do have relationships with schools and say, let's all bring this book to middle schools that we're connected with and see if we can't get them excited about the book and create some opportunities for the book and show the publisher, that we can create a One Book, One South kind of event. Set events going on all around the South around this book for this publisher.
Well, I'd like to comment on that when Jamie's done.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea, especially with a book as powerful as that. It's a really great book, and Jewel is a great speaker. We had her in several times for several school visits. She's a very powerful speaker to kids. So I think it's an interesting idea to try, especially if you do some Skype visits or whatever with her. That I think she's in Arizona or something. So that I think it would be great. I mean, I don't know how the schools. I think some schools would want to do it and some wouldn't, and some
Right. And we wouldn't want every school. We couldn't manage it if every school did it. My issue is with communicating with the bookstores what it is we're trying to do.
Well,
And
let me address that, Wanda. I think last year there wasn't enough lead time. Like, it takes a lot of lead time to first figure out how you as the bookstore are going to approach the schools, and then the time to actually approach the schools.
Yeah,
Plus, it would be
we're trying to
nice
figure
if-
out our summer reading now,
Mhm.
and it's still January, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do for summer reading. So
Mhm.
the lead time for bookstores is
So this
Yeah,
book,
months.
We're
This-
used to a very long lead time schedule. Plus, it would be helpful to have some resources like extra galleys and things for teachers to read so that they would know whether they want to do it for their class. And then third, I think you need something special that they're only going to get through you. So whether that's the Skype author visit, whether it's signed books, if you can arrange to, all of their orders would be signed, you know, something.
and when you say from you, do you mean from the store?
Yeah, that are only available if you book this visit through the bookstore or
Gotcha.
you do this program through the bookstore. There has to be some reason they're ordering books from you, and they're not going to be like, oh, well, I can get them much cheaper on Amazon.
Right. Gotcha. So we're looking at Children's Book Week, which is in May. Is that that's not enough lead time?
That's enough lead time. They just test in April. March is prepping for the test. Testing's in April. By May, the school here is just like, we're done.
Yeah,
Right.
I have a hard
Talk
time.
to anybody anymore. We just want to end.
Yeah, I have a hard time booking any school visits in May, so I'm not sure if they'd want to do anything. I'd have to ask some teachers.
Yeah,
Same
we
here.
end in the
April
beginning.
is our big month, and then we don't do anything in May for the most part.
Who is that talking?
That's Lizzie from Quail Ridge.
Thank you. So the book pubs in April, like April 28th or April 18th. Say April 15th, around then. What my thinking was, if we were promoting it in advance and we were getting galleys to schools and to bookstores, then they would have from April, the kids would have from April until that first week of May to read it. But I don't know if that works.
I don't know. My schools are testing. They're finishing up testing right then.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what the teachers would be willing to do.
And they don't read during testing? That's what I used to do.
They don't have any time to do anything during testing.
The kids don't?
I've talked to.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the One
Okay.
Book program, I've run that for a store at Massachusetts before, and we basically had it where we chose a one book as a community for, we did one for high school, one for middle school, and one for adults, and we ran the programming at the store. And so while we reached out to the schools and got a lot of school participation, we actually ran it during the summer. And so teachers were giving extra credit. They would put it on as one of the optional books on their summer reading lists. And so that's how we were able to, as a community, come together around one book. But then it wasn't us bringing the author to the different schools. It was the different schools encouraging their kids to come out to us for that programming. Or I think we would have 3 different events throughout the course of the summer for each book. So it'd be a book discussion or 2, one would be an author event, and then one might incorporate a couple of schools specifically that wanted to really get involved. I don't know if something like that would work here.
But that's a great idea, because that way every store can decide how they want to, what kind of event they want to have. And I think the potential, particularly this book, there's not a lot of, I don't know that the author has to be there to have an awesome discussion. But I don't want to take any more of y'all's time. Thank you. And y'all ask questions now. I've made notes. Thank you very much.
Jamie, I had one other question about schools that want to do book orders through purchase orders.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's just this one school that's completely disorganized or if the whole system is this way, but it's like, you know, somebody will contact me and they'll want a bunch of quotes and I'll do maybe like 8, and then I don't get any purchase orders. And you follow up and then maybe you get 1 purchase order. And of course it's for the smallest quote. And then they want those books right away, even though it took, 3 months to get me the actual purchase order. And then you have to like ding them to get paid, It's just so much work and so time consuming, and you're giving them a big discount on top of that.
Yeah, I've been working with one school that sounds very similar. They've been challenging to work with. They'll send an order I'll send them a quote. It has to go through 8 different channels, it seems like, to get approval and to send me an actual purchase order that comes from somewhere completely different. And then we place the order, and then it takes a couple weeks to get them their books. But yeah, I mean, not everybody has been as difficult. I think it depends on the school. We have found that a lot of the media coordinators or the curriculum coordinators are having trouble with their principals approving things, and that's why it's taken a little bit longer in some instances. And then in others, it's the Title I money that they're just not sure when it's going to come through, so they can't guarantee the sale until they are assured their money. So I think it's probably just a case-by-case basis, or it could be that your contact there is not as organized as others. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's been hit or miss with a lot of schools, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions? Well, I think then that'll be it. Thank you, Jamie.
Sure, thanks.
And we recorded this presentation, so we're gonna have it up on the Pure Brain Trust. I think next week, maybe, Nikki. So you can check it back. If you remembered something and you need to see it again, it'll be there. And we hope you'll be back next month. We have our next webinar presentation. So.
Is it possible to get the documents that Jamie had shared online as part of the Pure Brain Trust as well? The
Some of them are up there, I believe. But
okay.
Yeah, I think I might have sent them after the fall show, but they're also on our website. You can download those if you want that sample sales sheet that I do to the schools. I'm happy to send that to Nikki to put up as well if you want.
Great, thank you.
all right. Well, thanks everybody. I think we'll close out here. We're going to stay on for our office hours until 4 o'clock. So if anyone wants to hang on, we'll still be here.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to stop recording now, though.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.